Assalamu alaikum everyone. How are you guys? Walaikum assalam. Sir, what does Walaikum assalam? What does E in set? Element of. It means element of or belongs to. Okay. Sir, I kind of want to ask about live session starting from April. Should I go for that or crash course from March? One, I'm kind of confused. Please guide me through this. See, there's a simple answer to that question, and there has always been a simple answer. And the answer is if you find content on YouTube sufficient and you think you're one of those disciplined students and you'll make the most of the content there is, then there is no need to pay for anything. Okay, no need to join a paid session. But if you feel like you want that extra push, you want the surveillance of the teacher, you want to be in touch with the teacher, you want to interact directly with the teacher, then in that case I would recommend. Simple as that. Walaikum Assalam, Ramadan Mubarak to you also. Happy to see your hair back. Yeah, so am I. Tell me about it. I don't know how many times I had to explain to people that I haven't gone bald. I went for Umrah. Sir, does the receivable or if your SOE differ in overseas countries except for Pakistan? I don't know. Yeah, but there's no fixed time. एक window होती है, उस window में आ जानी चाहिए, and I think that window is, I'm not sure how many working days it is, but it's different, of course. There's no fixed time. ये तो है. Sir, अगर 70-80% syllabus covered हो तो yearly start कर दें, as you said in previous to do 10-15 paper with help of notes. हाँ हाँ 70-80% है तो बिल्कुल आप start कर दें. आप किस चीज़ का वेट कर रहे हैं? Sir, is this the best time? Yeah, the best time to start yearlies is now. Actually, the best time to start yearlies was yesterday. But khair, you can start now also. Sir, जो आपकी derivative की video है, ठीक है, what about it? Should we show working for this topic in terms of formulas since I was told it's not preferred for distinction? But कौन कहाँ से लाते हैं आप ये लोग? You know, I really like to know what your source is. You should show your working. Okay, long story short, you should show your working. I mean, think of it from the examiner's perspective. If you don't show your working, if it's a 2-mark question, you have to show your working. If it's just a 1-mark question, you take a wild guess, you get it right for some reason, you get away with it. Okay? But if it's more than 2 marks, if it's more than 1 mark, you have to show your working. It's really as simple as that. Sir, I have exhausted topical past papers, yearly past papers. What should I do now? Now you should just do variants. That's what I would suggest. Sir, is it better to buy a booklet for yearlies? It's best that you print it out and then do it. Okay, you print it out and then do it. Past papers print करें. Print out like 4 or 5 years of past papers and then do on the past papers. That's what I would recommend. Close to exams, that's what you should be doing. Okay, आज आप लोग बड़े अच्छे सवाल पूछ रहे हैं. जैसे जैसे एग्ज़ाम्स करीब आते हैं आप लोगों का लेवल ऑफ क्वेश्चंस अच्छा हो जाता है. अच्छा, उसमें आपने डबल डेरिवेटिव अप्लाई किया, मैक्सिमम पॉइंट्स का लिया, बट मैंने एक क्वेश्चन काउंट जो कंपीटिंग उसमें ये होगा कि वो प्रॉब्ली हमें शो करना होगा दैट इट्स मैक्सिमम और मिनिमम, समथिंग ऑफ दैट. ऐसा कोई सवाल होगा. IQ, हाँ, ज़्यादा पढ़ना शुरू कर देते हैं ना आप लोग तो आपकी IQ बढ़ जाती है. सर प्लीज़ टेल हाउ टू सॉल्व 0.419 इज फ्रैक्शन इन इट्स सिंपलेस्ट फॉर्म. I think that's not the correct question. Maybe it's a recurring fraction. Maybe it's a recurring decimal, which you're supposed to convert to fraction. Okay, Ibrahim, because the answer to your question is simply multiply by 1000 divided by 1000. But I don't think you'll get 3 marks for this. You're probably recurring decimal का सवाल होगा. Sir, graphs of functions का min max point वाली video बना दें, please. मैंने जब graphs of functions की stream की थी, I covered some questions related to that. Sir, will you be streaming on recurring decimals? I've already covered recurring decimals. I've covered surds. I've covered exponential growth and decay. I did one stream in which I covered these 3 topics that were added in the syllabus. How to solve the sequence table. We're going to practice that, inshallah. Sir, what will be the structure of your April past paper sessions I want to join, and how are we going to do them? So I will be solving past papers. Okay, I will be solving yearly. It'll be a mix and match. I'll be solving difficult yearly past papers. Alongside, I'll be giving you what approach you should have. And, you know, we'll be studying for patterns. We'll be looking for which questions have the most weightage, which questions don't have a lot of weightage, and how you should work on your timing, how should you cover the paper within the time, and how you should check as you go along. Okay, so I'll be solving yearly past papers, and there will be some papers that I will be giving you guys to solve, and the papers that you guys solve, we'll be discussing those in class. That's what we will be doing. How to avoid silly mistakes in maths? I made plenty of videos on it. Just check as you go along. Silly mistakes, everybody makes silly mistakes, so it's best that you check as you go along and you're more conscious of your working. Sir, is it okay to solve from Sir Ahmed Sir compiled? बेटा वो उन्होंने अपने कोई पास पेपर्स नहीं बनाए, पास पेपर स्टैंडर्ड होते हैं, ठीक है. अब वो Sir Ahmed साहब बनाए, कोई भी बनाए, it really doesn't make a difference. You can register for the session directly from the website www.mathletebysart.com. Okay, sir, जो comments वाले question होते हैं, for example, why is relative frequency appropriate to use in probability, समझ नहीं आता. ठीक है, अभी हमारी statistics की वो stream चल रही है ना, तो हम statistics में इंशाल्लाह उसको cover करेंगे. मेरा question, आपका question, sir, will you be streaming a video on time? Time, I've already done so many videos on time. I mean, it's not that difficult. So not a lot of people ask. आप search करो, कोई ना कोई आपको video मिल जाएगी, उससे cover हो जाएगा. सर आपने लास्ट क्लास में कहा था कि आप IGCSE probability के पास. ठीक है, मैं करा दूंगा, अभी CI तो नहीं हुआ ना. So take it easy. Okay. Anyway, so let's start today's stream, and आज हम start करने जा रहे हैं with something that is very difficult, but the good news is it's not tested very often. Okay. Acha, before I start, as always, I would appreciate, and I always have to remind you guys to like the stream. I'd appreciate if you do that, and I would also appreciate if you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. Okay? So if you can do that, I would really appreciate it. Acha, so basically we are starting sequence. Dekho, IGCSE mein to if it comes in paper 4, then it's gonna carry a lot of marks, like could be around 8 to 10. If it comes in paper 2, then maybe not too many, like 4 or 5 marks, but it's an important topic. Okay, it's an important topic. So we are going to cover cubic sequences. ठीक है, क्या cover कर रहे हैं? हम cover कर रहे हैं cubic sequences. अब cubic sequences, remember, is something that's rarely tested. Okay, it's something that is rarely tested. And the reason why I'm saying this again and again is because the formula of cubic sequences is a horrifying one, okay? But that's how it is, and it's best that you memorize it. ठीक है? अच्छा, अब इसका formula क्या है? देखें, linear sequence जो होती है या arithmetic sequence जो होती है, वो कैसी होती है? It's basically an plus b, okay? When you simplify it. Quadratic sequence is an squared plus bn plus c. Cubic sequence is an cubed plus bn squared plus cn plus d. Okay, so the general term of a cubic sequence looks like this. An cube plus bn square plus cn plus d. This is what it looks like, okay? All right, if you don't find it that difficult, good for you. Now, first let's see how can we identify that the sequence we're talking about is in fact a cubic sequence. Okay, so here's the first term. That's 4, and then we have 14, and then we have, suppose, 40, and then we have 88, and then we have 164. अच्छा, अब normally जो आपकी cubic sequences होती है ना, उनकी general term relatively आसान होती है, ठीक है, relatively आसान. जो अक्सर past papers में मैंने देखा है, उनकी general term आसान होती है, but sometimes there are difficult ones as well, okay? Now, how do we identify that this is in fact a cubic sequence? Okay, how do we identify that this is a cubic sequence? Here's how we do it. So, follow along. Difference between the first two terms is 10. Okay, difference between the next two terms is 26. Difference between the next two terms is 48. Difference between the next two terms is 80 minus 4, 76. Okay? Any pattern? No, no pattern so far. Difference of the difference, okay, difference of the difference, that's 16. Difference of the difference, that's 22. Difference of the difference, that's 28, okay? Now, what if I find the difference of the difference of the difference, okay? So what's the difference between 16 and 22? That is 6. What's the difference between 22 and 28? That's also 6. Okay, so this is how we realize that this is in fact a cubic sequence. Okay, इसको हम क्या बोलते हैं? इसको हम बोलते हैं D3. Okay, so how do you identify that if it's a cubic sequence? I'll write it down. Cubic sequence. If the third difference of a sequence, and third difference is D3. Okay, if the third difference D3 of a sequence is the same, it's a cubic sequence. Okay, now, so what about 16? 16 is the second difference. What about 10? 10 is the first difference. ठीक है? अच्छा, अब get ready because I'm going to write down 4 important formulas. ठीक है, जो आपने याद करने. ठीक है, मैं आपको एक alternate तरीका भी दे दूँगा. I'll give you an alternative method also, but these are 4 important formulas that will help you identify a cubic sequence. That'll help you find the general term of a cubic sequence. Okay, now there's no way out. You have to memorize these. Okay, there's no way out. You have to memorize them. Now this is must memorize. Okay, now what are the 4 expressions that you must memorize? Here they are. A plus B plus C plus D is equals to T1, meaning that this is equal to the first term. Okay? Then we have 7A plus 3B plus C, which is equal to the first difference. Okay, 7A plus 3B plus C, which is equal to first difference. फिर है हमारे पास 12A plus 2B is equal to the second difference. ठीक है, and then finally 6A is equals to the third difference. ठीक है, now I know what you guys are probably thinking, too many formulas to memorize. Well, sadly, that's what the reality is. Okay, you have to memorize these 4 expressions. Let's go over them one more time. A plus B plus C plus D is equals to T1. 7A plus 3B plus C is equals to D1. 12A plus 2B is equals to D2. And 6A is equals to D3. D3 का मतलब third difference. Okay? Now, अब let's start putting this all together. So, let's find out the value of A. Okay, so A के लिए हम क्या use करेंगे? हम use करेंगे 6A is equals to D3. Now, what's the third difference? How are these formulas derived? Okay, if you're interested to find out how these formulas are derived by basically plugging in 1 in place of n and setting it equal to 4. Then by plugging in 2 in place of n and setting it equal to the second term. Then by plugging in 3 in place of n and setting it equal to 40. And then by plugging in 4 in place of n, setting it equal to 80. Because there are 4 unknowns, you need 4 equations. Now, your teacher probably didn't do this. I mean, I don't blame your teacher. A lot of teachers don't do this because this is rarely tested. ठीक है, हो सकता है 10 साल में से एक दफ़ा आ जाए. But you should be prepared. Okay, you should be prepared. So that's how these formulas are derived. Okay, so 6A is equals to D3. That means 6A is equals to the third difference. So 6A is equals to 6. That means A is equals to 1. Okay, now 12A plus 2B. 12A plus 2B is equals to D2. ठीक है, मैंने शुरू में ही बोल दिया था कि this is something that's rarely tested. So 12A, we already have the value of A. Okay, we already have the value of A plus 2B. B क्या है हमें नहीं पता. That's what we're supposed to find out. And D2 is the second difference, which is equal to what? Which is equal to 16. Okay, so these are the key terms that we're going to be using. The first term, the first difference, the second difference, and the third difference. अच्छा, मैं ये सवाल कर लूँ, फिर मैं आप लोगों के सवालों का जवाब देता हूँ कि ये सिलेबस में है या नहीं. सिलेबस में है, मैं आपको दिखा भी देता हूँ that this is part of the syllabus. So 12 plus 2B is equals to 16 and 2B is equals to 4, which means B is equals to 2. Now we have to find out the value of A, the B, C, and D. Okay, so far 2 down, 2 more to go. अच्छा, अब इसको थोड़ा साइड पे लगाते हैं. Let's make some room. Let's put this on the side as well. And let's drag this on the side as well. Okay, now let's find out the value of C. अब C की value निकालने के लिए, so we've used this. Now we're going to use the third expression from the bottom. So that's 7A plus 3B plus C, which is equal to D1. So 7A means 7 times 1, 3B means 3 times 2, plus C, which is equal to D1. And what's D1? D1 is equals to 10. Now 7 plus 6 plus C is equals to 10. Ab zara thoda, let's skip a few steps. 7 plus 6 is 13, and 10 minus 13 is equal to minus 3. So we have the value of C. Now finally, let's find out the value of D. Acha, ab D ki value kaise nikalenge? We're going to use the first from the top or fourth from the bottom expression. So A plus B plus C plus D is equals to T1. T1 means the first term of the sequence. So what's A? A is 1. What's B? B is 2. What's C? C is minus 3. What's D? Well, that's what we're supposed to find. And what is D? D is 4. Okay, so 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 minus 3 would just simply cancels, and we have the value of D, which is equal to 4. Now we have the value of A. Let's put a box around this. We have the value of B. Let's put a box around this. We have the value of C. Let's put a box around this. We have the value of D. Let's put a box around this. We know what the general term looks like. This is what the general term is supposed to look like. And now step by step, let's replace the value of A, B, C, and D. इसको करते हैं copy. यहाँ पे करते हैं paste. ठीक है. अब replace करते हैं. So that means A is equals to 1. So 1n cube plus 2n square plus cn. So that's going to be minus 3n plus 4. So this is the general term. ठीक है, मज़ा आया? अब एक और मज़े की बात बताऊँ. This will probably be just 2 marks, not more than that. How is D1 10? D1 is the difference between the first two terms. Okay, D1 is the difference between the first two terms. D2 is the difference of the difference. D3 is the difference of the difference of the difference. Okay, so all this working for 2 marks. Now, whether you like it or not, this is how it's done. But एक good news भी है. ठीक है, अब good news क्या है वो मैं बाद में बताऊंगा. First, let me show you whether it's part of the syllabus or not. So 4024 syllabus. Acha ji. So those of you who are saying that this is not part of the syllabus or are thinking but are too reluctant to admit, okay, so here. So it says find and use nth term of sequences. What sequence? Linear, quadratic, cubic, and exponential. Okay, so linear, which is arithmetic, we've already done that. Quadratic, we've already done that. Cubic, we have already done that. And exponential sequences and simple combinations of these. Okay, so it's part of the O-level syllabus. Yes, it's not tested very often. In fact, it's rarely tested, like I said, and it's also part of the IGCSE syllabus. So here also you can see that it's the exact same thing. Okay, so linear, quadratic, cubic, exponential, and simple combinations of these. So they're both, the cubic sequence is both part of the O-level and IGCSE Math syllabus. Okay. Exponential sequence is geometric sequence. We covered that in the last class. ठीक है, मैंने बोला भी था कि इसको हम exponential भी बोलते हैं, geometric भी बोलते हैं. So we've already done this. We did this in the last stream. You can check it out. Okay. What is the most difficult yearly paper? 3171. Search for 3171. IGCSE and O-level math. I think that's the most difficult yearly paper. And I think 2016 का May-June session का paper 2. O-level. So like these formulas are equations and derived. Why don't we find a similar formula for quadratic? It requires less working. So the one that I've already given you for quadratic requires less working. Okay. The one that I've given you for quadratic is the one that requires the least amount of working. Okay. Now, let me open up a past paper question where I can show you what's the most tested topic. Better solve enough past paper questions and you will realize what's the most tested topic. Okay, अच्छा एक काम करते हैं. First, let's cover the concept, the one pending concept, and then we'll do past paper questions together. Okay, so we've done cubic sequence. Okay, we'll do past paper questions of it. Now let's do the hence find sequence. Now hence find questions are perhaps my favorite. I love solving questions like these. Hence find. अच्छा, hence find में हम क्या करते हैं? Why do I call them hence find questions? Okay, this is, don't go around searching for hence find questions because you won't find them. This is a name that I've given them. ठीक है? So basically hence find में ये होता है. Hence find में here's what we do. अच्छा, to save some time मैं इसको type कर लेता हूँ. ठीक है? So in hence find, here's what we do. To find the general term of a sequence using the general term of another sequence. Okay, so this is simply hence find. So the question will give you the general term of a sequence, and using that, it will ask you to find out the general term of another sequence. Okay, अब मैं आपको इसकी एक छोटी सी example दिखा देता हूँ. Okay, very simple example. So let's say that you have the following terms: T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, T6. First term is 1, second term is 4, third term is 9, fourth term is 16, fifth term is 25, okay? And the sixth term is, let's suppose, 36, okay? Now, can you tell me what will be the general term of the first sequence? Sir, is there a question in graphs of functions which we have occurred but not coordinated like in empty graphs? I don't think there is such a case. I don't know what you're talking about. So can you guys tell me the general term of the sequence? I think it's quite basic. So इसकी general term क्या होगी? Sir, for vectors, can similarity be used to find scalar multiples for every question? So should I instead use? If it's similar, then of course you will have to use the concept of similarity. If they are similar. If they're not, then obviously you can't. It's n square. No, not n cube. Okay, it's n square. Okay. So why? Because we can see that the term, the value of the term is simply the square of the term number. So if it's 1, it's 1 squared. If it's the second term, it's 2 squared. If it's the third term, it's 3 squared. If it's the fourth term, it's 4 squared. If it's the fifth term, it's 5 squared. If it's the sixth term, it's 6 squared. That means the nth term will simply be x squared. अच्छा, अब मैं नीचे लिख रहा हूँ एक और sequence. Okay. Now what you have to do is you have to tell me the general term without using the formula. Okay, you could use the formula and do it, but that's no big deal. The question would be, hence find the general term of the sequence below. Okay, hence find the general term of the sequence below. Okay, so let's not dive into what ifs because the list of what ifs is endless. Let's focus on what is rather than what if. We'll do past paper questions of this concept, so you'll find the answer to your what if also. Now, using the sequence above, I want you to find out the general term of the sequence below. Okay, using the general term of the sequence above, find the general term of the sequence below. ठीक है, इसमें आपको अपने दिमाग इस्तेमाल करना पड़ेगा. There is no shortcut, there is no formula, there is no trick, you can't use your calculator or anything. You have to use your common sense. Okay, and you have to use your common sense to identify a trend. Okay, n squared plus 1. Let's see if you guys are correct or not. So what are we doing consistently? Consistently, we are observing a pattern that the term in the sequence below is always 1 greater than the term in the sequence above. So that means if the general term of this sequence is n square, all I have to do is to obtain the general term of the sequence below, just add 1 to it. That's it. So n square plus 1. Okay, common sense. ये हम consistently अगली sequence पे जाने के लिए एक ऐड कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, तो अगर इसकी जनरल टर्म है तो फिर आपने इसमें भी एक ऐड कर लो, इसकी जनरल टर्म आ जाएगी. ठीक है, गुड जॉब. नाउ अनदर वन, एंड आई वांट यू टू टेल मी द आंसर टू दिस. ठीक है, अब बताएं. अगेन पुट सम थॉट इनटू इट. ओके, पुट सम थॉट इनटू इट before you answer. And you cannot use the formula. This is a hence find question. Okay, so if you use the formula, you're not going to get any marks. Can I start yearlies from April? The sooner the better. You can, so you can start from May also, obviously. But the sooner the better. n square plus n. Let's see. N square plus n. Let's see if that's correct. Anyone else? N square plus n. Okay, so that seems to be the majority opinion. N square plus n. ठीक है, अब हम चेक करते हैं. अब रिमेंबर हम इसको, ये हमारी ओरिजिनल सीक्वेंस है, ठीक है, हमें इसको यूज़ करना है. Yeah, I was being sarcastic. Okay, I was being sarcastic. Yeah. Please note, I was being sarcastic. आपने पूछा ना can. Yes, the question is, should you start yearlies in April? Well, the answer to that is you should start yearlies as soon as possible. Okay, so what are we doing from the sequence, from the very first sequence to this sequence? What's the pattern? अब यहाँ पे हमने क्या ऐड किया, यहाँ पे हमने 1 ऐड किया, यहाँ पे हमने क्या ऐड किया, यहाँ पे हमने 2 ऐड किया, यहाँ पे हमने क्या ऐड किया, यहाँ पे हमने 3 ऐड किया. फोर्थ टर्म में हम क्या ऐड कर रहे हैं, हम 4 ऐड कर रहे हैं. फिफ्थ टर्म में हम क्या ऐड कर रहे हैं, हम 5 ऐड कर रहे हैं. सिक्स टर्म में हम क्या ऐड कर रहे हैं, हम 6 ऐड कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, सो दैट मीन्स वट एवर टर्म नंबर इट इज़, दैट्स द वैल्यू दैट वी आर एडिंग. Okay, whatever term number it is that we want to find out, that's the value that we're adding. So that means if you want to get to the nth term from the nth term of the sequence above, all you have to do is add n. Okay, why? Because that's what the trend is, that the sixth term we add 6, for the fifth term we add 5, for the fourth term we add 4, for the third term we add 3. So that means for the nth term we'll add n. Simple. Okay, so this is the concept. Now let's do some past paper questions to see what's what. Okay, this is the concept. Now let's do some past paper questions to see what's what. Asymptotes ki video inshallah for sure next week. Okay, so I've started compiling questions. Inshallah, either a stream or next week there will be a video on asymptotes. Okay, so here's a question. Let's solve this. Let's solve this together. So this question says, here is another sequence, okay? The pth term of the sequence, so pth term basically means general term, all right? Write down an expression in terms of p for the pth term of these sequences, okay? So it's a 1-mark question. That means you can use the formula, okay? You can use the formula, but I wouldn't recommend that you use the formula. I would recommend that you use the sequence above. You'll find out, when I make a video, you'll find out what are asymptotes. So here's how you should approach such questions. Here's my advice. My advice is that you first write down the sequence that you're given. So what's the sequence that you're given? You're given 5, 8, 13, 20, 29. और आप यहाँ पे T1 भी लिख लें. Write T2, T3 for the third term, T4 showing it's the fourth term, T5 showing that it's the fifth term, and TP, which is just another way of saying that it's the general term. Here you should write P square plus 4. Okay, so I haven't done anything. I've just written everything the question has given. Okay, now under this, I'm going to write down the sequence of which we're supposed to find out the general term. So minus 2, 1, 6, 13, 22. Okay, now let's look for a trend. Let's look for a trend. So how do we go from 5 to minus 2? We subtract 7. How do we go from 8 to 1? We subtract 7. How do we go from 13 to 6? We subtract 7. Sorry, not add, we subtract 7. How do you go from 20 to 13? We subtract 7. How do you go from 29 to 22? We subtract 7. So that means we are consistently subtracting 7. So that means if we have the general term of the sequence above and you want the general term of the sequence below, it's going to be the general term of the sequence above minus 7. So what's p square plus 4 minus 7? P square minus 3. That's the answer. Okay? Achha, अब see if you guys can do it for part 2. See if you guys can do it for part 2. Okay, so I'll give you a minute to work it out. See if you can figure it out yourself. I'm just gonna go grab some water. Okay. So we have one answer from Ayan. Anyone else? Differentiation integration of AdMaths, inshallah, I'm starting from Monday. ठीक है, stay tuned. Instagram पे schedule आ जाएगा. I'm gonna do differentiation and integration, all of it, inshallah, from scratch on YouTube from Monday. P square plus 4 plus 2p. That is correct. Good job. So I'll solve this. Once again, इधर भी आपने क्या करना है, इसको तमीज़ से सॉल्व करना है. पहले आप यहाँ पे लिखें 5, फिर आप लिखें 8, फिर आप लिखें 13, फिर आप लिखें 20, फिर आप लिखें 29, फिर ऊपर आप लिखें T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, so that you can find the relationship between the term number and whatever it is that you're adding. Okay, then you put a dot dot dot, you write TP to show the pth term, which is p square plus 4. Okay. Now, how do we go from the pth term of the sequence above to the sequence below? So let's see what the trend is. So in the first term, we're adding 2. In the second term, we're adding 4. In the third term, we're adding 6. In the fourth term, we're adding 8. In the fifth term, we're adding 10. So that means if there was a sixth term, we would have added 12. If there was a seventh term, we would have added 14. So the term that we're adding is always double of the term number. Okay, so if you think about it, the term that we're adding is always double of the term number. So 4 hai to hum 8 add kar rahe hain. Fifth term hai to hum 6 add kar rahe hain. If it's the second term, we're adding 4. If it's the first term, we're adding 2. So if it's the pth term, that means the term that we're going to add is going to be double of the term number, which is 2p. Okay, so p square plus 2p plus 4 is the answer. Now, if you want, you can write it as p square plus 4 plus 2p, or you can write it the way we write a quadratic equation. It's not really going to cost you anything. And there you go. This is the answer. Okay, so this is what a hence find question looks like. Okay? अच्छा अब एक काम करते हैं. Let's do some past paper questions. Okay, so I've taken out some past paper questions which we're going to solve. Acha, functions पे करा दूंगा. First I want to do differentiation integration. So if I made a mistake of writing 2n rather than 2p, if I was the examiner तो मैं जाने देता. I can't really comment on behalf of the examiner. I think जाने देना चाहिए उसको. अगर उसका कोई अगर अच्छे मूड से चेक कर रहा है तो. अगर मैं होता तो मैं जाने देता. But I'm not the examiner, so don't count on it. Anyway, so let's do some past paper questions. Okay, let's do some easy ones and then do some difficult ones. पहले ज़रा IGCSE करते हैं. IGCSE के questions की मुझे एक बात बहुत अच्छी लगती है, especially जो उनके table वाले questions होते हैं ना. Yeah, I love these. I love these questions. Okay. एक ही question देके ना पूरी अपनी जान छुड़ा लेते हैं. सारे चीज़ें इसी में test होके. That's it, job done. So, and this is relevant for O levels as well. Okay, so O level students अपनी आँखें और कान ना बंद कर लीजिएगा. This is relevant for you guys as well, because it's the same. The question pattern is different, but the concept is the same. All right. So let's see what this question says. This says complete the table for the 3 sequences. So these are the kind of questions that you will mostly find in IGCSE. Now let's see. Let's identify a trend. How do we go from -7 to -3? We add 4. How do we go from -3 to 1? We add 4. How do we go from 1 to 5? We add 4. So that means this is an arithmetic sequence. Okay, it's an arithmetic sequence. So that means the term after 5 would be 5 plus 4. That's equal to 9. Now what about the nth term? Let's find out the nth term. So the working that I'm doing here is for a. So the nth term, as we know, is a plus n minus 1 times d. Okay, so this is how you find out the nth term. So a is -7 plus n minus 1 into the common difference, which is 4. So -7 plus 4n minus 4, which means 4n minus 11. Yeah, 4n minus 11. There you go. So the nth term is 4n minus 11. ठीक हो गया? Is it compulsory to show the working here? I would advise that you show the working. ठीक है, मैं भी इसकी मार्किंग स्कीम भी खोल लेता हूँ. और ये जो आपको इतनी सारी जगह दी हुई है, ये ज़ाहिर है आपको वर्किंग करने के लिए दी हुई है, and it's best that you show your working. Okay? Now, sir, are the questions, so they're not exactly the same, but the concept is similar. Okay, so conceptually what's tested in IGCSE is the same as what's tested in O-levels. In O-levels you will notice that there are more word problems compared to IGC, and IGCSE questions are relatively straightforward. Okay, but that doesn't mean you can't have a word problem in IGCSE and you can't have a straightforward question in O-level also. ठीक है? अच्छा, ये भी अच्छा formula है, dn plus t0. That's not a bad formula. It's a good formula. The reason why I don't teach it is because this formula then helps us remember the quadratic sequence formula. Okay, so yes, you can use the formula dn plus t0. That's perfectly all right. Okay. So there was a question in the nth expression was n square plus an minus b. The first term was 3 and the third term was 19. How would you find the sixth term? You would first find out a and b, and then you would plug in the values of a and b and plug in 6 in place of n, and then you'll find out the nth term. ठीक है? So पहले आपको a और b की values निकालनी है, and then you'll plug in 6 in place of n. That's how you'll find out the sixth term. Okay, so now let's focus on b. So b, we're adding 6, we're adding 10, we're adding 14. So clearly this is a quadratic sequence. Okay, so b is a quadratic sequence. So that means the formula that we will use for a quadratic sequence is, I hope you guys remember, a plus n minus 1 into d1 plus d2 upon 2, okay, into n minus 1 into n minus 2. ठीक है? अच्छा, और मैंने आपको ये भी मशवरा दिया था that you can memorize the expanded version of n minus 1, n minus 2, which is n square minus 3n plus 2. ठीक है? Now let's plug in the values. A is 7, n minus 1 remains n minus 1. All right, d1 as we can see is 6, d2, which is the difference of the difference, that's 4. Okay, so 4 upon 2, which will simplify in the next step, n square minus 3n plus 2 as it is, 2 1s are, 2 2s are. Now let's start expanding. So 7 plus 6n minus 6 plus 2n square minus 6n plus 4. So plus 6n minus 6n cancels. Now let's see what we have left. We have 2n square, 7 minus 6 is 1, 1 plus 4 is 5. So we have 2n square plus 5. Okay, I just realized I forgot to find out the fifth term. So the fifth term will be found by adding 18. And what's 37 plus 18? That's 45. 45 plus 10, 55. There you go. Okay. Now, let's look at C. C में क्या करेंगे? C में, अब देखो, if you think about it, if you think about 27, 81, 243, 729, what are these? What's 27, 81, 243, 729? What kind of a sequence are we dealing with? Okay, numerator is pretty straightforward. Numerator is always 1 greater than the term number. So if it's the first term, numerator is 2. If it's the second term, numerator is 3. If it's the third term, numerator is 4. If it's the fourth term, numerator is 5. If it's the fifth term, that means the numerator will be 6. But the question is, what will be the cube? No, it's not a cubic sequence. You might think it's a cubic sequence, but it's actually not. It's not a cubic sequence. As far as the numerator is concerned, that's settled. Okay, it's n plus 1. It's always 1 greater than the term number. As far as the denominator is concerned, and by the way, this is paper 4, okay? So feel free to use your calculator. This is paper 4. So how do you go from 27 to 81? You times 3. How do you go from 81 to 243? You times 3. How do you go from 243 to 729? You times 3. So that means this is a cubic sequence. Oh, sorry, this is an exponential sequence. So this is a geometric, or as we call it, exponential sequence. ठीक है? अच्छा, अब इसकी general term कैसे निकालते हैं? What's the formula? The formula is Tn is equals to a r raised to the power n minus 1. So that means 27, that's the first term, r is 3 and n minus 1. That's it. 27 into 3 power n minus 1. Okay, why? Because a is the first term. The common ratio, as you can see, is 3, and that's it. Just put it all together and you have the answer. So 27, 3 raised to the power n minus 1. So are we supposed to memorize square and cube numbers? Now, if you want to play it safe, here's what I would recommend. I would recommend exam mein you should know squares till 20 and cubes till 10. Okay, if you know squares till 20 and cubes till 10, you will end up saving a lot of time. All right. Sir, is it possible that a trend appears for the general terms like in a table? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Okay, anyway. In a sequence, the sum of the first 49 terms is 7644. The sum of the first 50 terms is 7975. Find out the 50th term of the sequence. Zoya, I've covered geometric sequence in the last stream from scratch. You can check it out. Okay, थोड़ा पीछे चली जाएं, ज़रा मेहनत कर लें. Last stream में मैंने पूरी geometric sequence cover की है, or exponential sequence, whatever you want to call it. You can cover it from there. Okay, here it is. We did some questions also. All right, anyway. So this is a pretty straightforward question. Sum of the first 49 terms is 7644. Sum of the first 50 terms is 7975. What's the 50th term going to be? Question for you guys. What's the 50th term going to be? कैसे निकालेंगे? इतना मुश्किल सवाल देने के बाद I think examiner को थोड़ा रहम आ गया और उसने कहा कि चलो आसान question दे देते हैं. Sum of the first 50 terms is geometric is there's no sum in math. Okay, math में आपके sum related questions नहीं है. So T50, okay, sum of the first 50 terms is 7644 and the sum of the first 49 terms, 50 terms is 7975, 49 terms is 7644. So in order to find out the 50th term, just take the sum of the 50 terms, which is 7975, and from that subtract the sum of the first 49 terms. So आपके पास आ जाएगी 50th term, which is equal to, we can use a calculator by the way throughout. I haven't been using my calculator, I don't know why. 7644, that's equal to 331. There we go. Okay. It's like you have been given the sum of the first 3 terms and you're given the sum of the first 2 terms and you're asked to find out the last term, the value of the last term. So you'll take the sum of the first 3 terms, subtract the sum of the first 2 terms, and you'll have the third term. Okay, now let's do a question from O levels. Let's do a relatively more complex question. O levels mein you'll notice questions like these. Okay, O level mein you will notice questions like these. You have more word problems. In IGCSE you'll notice you have tables like these. You have tables like these. You will notice that you have questions with tables like these. Okay, O levels mein aap note karenge that you have word problems. Okay, but they're both important. Okay, they're both important. Now, number of crosses. Let's count the number of crosses. Let's identify a pattern and let's make the same number of crosses in pattern number 4. O level P2 में P2 में भी आता है, paper 1 में भी आता है, ठीक है? So irrespective, I think in majority of the questions you will not need a calculator. Even if it's in paper 2 of O level or paper 4 of IGCSE, you won't really need a calculator. अच्छा, अब how many crosses can we expect in pattern 4? 4 to 6, that's plus 2. 6 to 8, that's plus 2. So 8 plus 2, that's 10. And 10 plus 2, that's 12. Okay, plus 2, plus 2. ये कौन सा पेपर है? ये है the most recent paper. October-November 2024, paper 12. Okay, so let's mark the number of crosses, and the number of crosses are going to be 10. Ab, how are we going to mark the crosses? Let's see. So we'll mark 3. If you notice over here कि 3 ऐसे हैं, 2 ऐसे हैं, 4 ऐसे हैं, 3 ऐसे हैं, ठीक है? यहाँ पे आपके 1 2 3 4 5 ऐसे हैं और 4 वर्टिकली हैं, ठीक है? अब यहाँ पे हमें क्या करना है? हमें 10 क्रॉसेस मार्क करना है. So that means 5 horizontally, 5 vertically. So 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, now 1 2 3 4 5. ठीक है? Let's count if they are 10. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. No, wait. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Yeah, I think I missed one. 1 2 3 4 5. नहीं, एक ज़्यादा होगा. Okay, यहाँ पे एक ज़्यादा होगा. Yeah. So 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5. ठीक है? Let's see if they are 10. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, अब सही है. I have covered exponential sequence in the last stream. So this is part 2 of a stream that I did earlier and in which I've covered exponential sequence. Okay, so you can check it out. Now, let's look at the number of circles. How many circles can we expect? So we have 2 cis 6, that means that's plus 4, and then a difference of 6. And now we can expect a difference of 8. So that means 12 plus 8 is 20. And then after that, there's got to be a difference of 10, which is equal to, which means we're going to have 30 circles. Okay, but we are given pattern 4. So in pattern 4, we're going to draw how many circles? We're going to draw 20 circles. Okay, so let's start drawing the circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay. This question came in my P1 today in mocks. I couldn't do the last part. Chalo, we'll do it now and you can regret it later. Acha, what's that, sir? How should we prepare? Okay, so I've answered that question quite a few times. I'll answer it again. Hang on, let me finish this question. The expression for the number of crosses in pattern n is 2n plus 2. Find the number of crosses in pattern 35. So that means we're given the value of n, and that's all we have to do. We have to plug in 35 in place of n. So 2 times 35 is 70. 70 plus 2 is 72. So 72 is the answer. So pretty basic so far. Okay, so far it has been pretty basic. Find an expression in terms of n for the number of circles in pattern n. Okay, so kaun hai who couldn't do this question? Well, you probably didn't see my last stream, or if you did, you probably didn't take notes or were paying attention. If you look at the number of circles, what kind of a sequence do we have? Who can tell me the kind of sequence that we have as far as the number of circles are concerned? Sir, is it possible to pick grade from D to A star in 1 month? I've seen students improve 3 grades. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. D to A star, well, if you work twice as hard as students who have improved 3 grades, you can. This, sir, how should we prepare for non-calculator papers for IGCSE since the O-level and IGCSE? No, I do recommend that you practice O-level math paper 1 to practice for IGCSE math paper 2. Okay, the paper pattern as far as paper 2 and paper 4 are concerned, yes, there's a slight difference, but this is the best option that you have right now. Okay, so right now the best option that you have is to use O-level math paper 1. Okay, now the difference between the first 2 terms is 4, the difference between the next 2 terms is 6, the difference between the next 2 terms is 8, difference of the difference is 2, so that means this is D2, this is D1, this is A. Now we put together the values in the formula A plus n minus 1 into D1 plus D2 upon 2 into n square minus 3n plus 2. So A is 2, 2 plus n minus 1 into 4 plus 2 upon 2 into n square minus 3n plus 2. Now let's expand. 2 and 2 cancel. So 2 plus 4n minus 2 plus n square, 2 plus 4n minus 4 plus n square minus 3n plus 2. So let's see if there's anything we can simplify. 2 plus 2, 4. 4 minus 4 cancel ho gaya. Or 4n minus 3n kya ho gaya? N square minus n ho gaya. Okay? So the answer, n square plus n ho gaya. So the answer is n square plus n. Isn't this arithmetic? No, beta, it's not arithmetic. No wonder you couldn't do it in the exam. This is not arithmetic. You need to go back and watch the last stream. In the last stream, I've covered sequences like these. How to differentiate between quadratic and geometric. In geometric, you're consistently multiplying by a certain constant. In quadratic, you're consistently adding a number. Okay. We are adding a number which keeps on increasing by a certain constant. Sir, can you please use our logic for quadratic? What do you mean by your logic? If you can run your logic through me, then I'll tell you whether it's acceptable or not. Explain again? Okay, so I think those of you who are asking me to explain it again are probably unaware of the formula that I'm using. Okay, this is the formula that we use to find out the general term of a quadratic sequence. Okay, so I covered this formula in the last stream. You can check it out. I'll just give you guys a summary. So first of all, how do we identify it's a quadratic sequence? We find the difference. We don't see a pattern. We do see a pattern, but we need to be sure. So we find the difference of the difference. We see that they're consistent. If that's the case, that means it's a quadratic sequence, and this is the formula that you have to use. Okay, where A is the first term, D1 is the difference between the first 2 terms, and D2 is the difference of the difference. That's right here. Just plug in the values, get the answer. Okay, those of you are wondering what this is and are absolutely clueless, well, I did this in the last stream. Please check it out. Okay, let's do another question. Let's do this. a question from IGCSE. Aliza, I don't recommend that. I don't recommend that you use trial and error method. That's not exactly a logic. नहीं, मैं recommend नहीं करूँगा. I recommend that you use the formula. Okay? So see if you guys can solve this. This is question number 20 from IGCSE. See if you guys can solve it. Sir, please guide how to pick grade. Better work hard, that's it. Just work hard. Keep solving past papers. Don't waste your time asking people for advices. Okay, the advice is pretty straightforward. If you want to lose weight, what are you going to do? What's the best way to do it? Just, watch what you're eating. Simple as that. If you want to get in shape, what should you do? Well, hit the gym. So if you want a good grade, just study. So quit wasting time asking people what you should do. You know the answer. Find the nth term of each sequence. Ab dekho, this is a this is a cubic sequence. Okay, now those of you who are confused or were worried about how to deal with cubic sequence, I have good news for you. Okay, so this is the good news that I was talking about. Okay, so cubic sequence में आपने 2 marks के लिए इतनी सारी मेहनत नहीं करनी. ठीक है, कौन सी मेहनत? ये वाली मेहनत. For 2 marks, you're not going to do all of this. Okay, but in order to basically be able to do this, you need to have some common sense and you need to have some patience. Okay, so this is the first term, this is the second term, this is the third term, this is the fourth term, this is the fifth term. Now, first of all, the question is, how should we determine that this is a cubic sequence? Okay, how do we determine that it's a cubic sequence? So the difference over here is 7. The difference over here is 19. ठीक है, मैं check कर लेता हूँ. It's a 34 minus 15. It's a paper 4 question. Sorry, it's a paper 2 question. Okay, no calculator. Then the difference after that, 34 and 71. Let's see what the difference is. 71 minus 34. Okay, I just realized I said I'm not going to use a calculator and I'm using it again. So the difference is 37. Okay, अच्छा, अब इन दोनों terms में difference निकाल लेते हैं. 71 and 132. Okay, no calculator. So if I subtract, there is 1. इसको 0 करते हैं, ये 6 हो गया. So that means the difference is 61. Now let's find out the difference of the difference. Okay, so the difference of the difference between 19 and 7, that's 12. The difference of the difference between 19 and 37, let's work that out. 37 minus 19, remember no calculator. ठीक है, so इसको एक कम करते हैं. 17 minus 9 is 8. 2 minus 1 is 1, so that's 18. Okay, 37 and 61, ये होगा हमारा 4 and 24. Yeah, so 24. Now what's the difference of the difference here? That's 6. What's the difference of the difference here? That's 6. Okay, so that means, what does that mean? That means we're dealing with a cubic sequence. Okay, we're dealing with a cubic sequence. Now you don't have to go through the pain of using that formula. Okay, so keep your eyes and ears open. You don't have to go through the pain of using that awfully long formula. Here's what you can do. अब आपने ये working की pencil से, ठीक है, तो ये इसको हम मिटा देते हैं. ठीक है, अच्छा, अब एक मशवरा है आपको. Let's introduce n cube over here, meaning let's rewrite these terms as cube numbers. Okay, like for example, मैं अगर यहाँ पे लिखता हूँ, so ये 8 है, ये 15 है, ये 34 है, ये 71 है, ये 132 है. ठीक है, गौर से देखते रहेगा. So this is the general term that we're supposed to find. We don't know what it is. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to write 1 cube over here, which is equal to 1. I'm going to write 2 cube over here, which is equal to 8. I'm going to write 3 cube under it, which is equal to 27. Then I'm going to write 4 cube under it, which is equal to 64. And then 5 cube, which is equal to 125. Now, tell me if you can identify a pattern between these terms, okay, between the cubes and the terms below them. Can you see a pattern between these terms and the terms below them? See if you can identify a pattern. If you can, then there's good news. If you cannot, then there's bad news. Okay, so this is the first term. This is the second term. This is the third term. This is the fourth term. This is the fifth term. I can only see plus 7, that is correct. ठीक है, तो हम कंसिस्टेंटली क्या कर रहे हैं, हम कंसिस्टेंटली 7 ऐड कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, फर्स्ट टर्म में हमने क्या किया, हमने 7 ऐड किया. ठीक है, सेकेंड टर्म में हमने क्या किया, हमने 7 ऐड किया. थर्ड टर्म में हमने क्या किया, थर्ड टर्म में भी हमने 7 ऐड किया. फोर्थ टर्म में भी हमने 7 ऐड किया. फिफ्थ टर्म में भी हमने 7 ऐड किया. So that means the nth term of the sequence above will be n cube. What about the nth term of the sequence below? So that's n cube plus 7. Okay, so the answer is basically n cube plus 7. Okay? Now you can still argue that this is a lot of working for 2 marks, and I agree, but this is as easy as it can possibly be. Isse zyada aasan nahi ho sakta. Okay, so I hope it's clear. I'll give you guys a summary of it. So the summary is that first, spend some time identifying what kind of a sequence it is. So once you've identified it's a cubic sequence, then just introduce consecutive cubes. Okay, introduce consecutive cubes. So here's 1 cube, here's 2 cube, here's 3 cube, here's 4 cube, here's 5 cube. And then compare the term of which you're supposed to find out the general term and compare that with the values above. So the values above are basically consecutive cubes, meaning its general term will be n cube. So what about the general term of the sequence below? That would be n cube plus 7. Okay. So whenever I see you live streaming, I'm working on another chapter and thus miss out on your stream. What is the solution to this problem? So there are 2 possible solutions. One is that I usually announce my stream on my Instagram, so you can follow on Instagram. Okay, and the other solution is that every stream that I do is always posted, so you can watch the stream. You can watch the recording, basically. Okay, now it's up to you to pick whatever solution that you like. All right, now let's do a question from O levels. Mushkil sawal karna hai ek? Let's do a difficult question. Yeah, let's do a difficult question. Sir, your AS past papers lectures help a lot, and I appreciate it. How do we know that this has a cubic sequence? But abhi maine puri story sunai hai, that how to figure out whether it's a cubic sequence. You find out the first difference, you find out the second difference. Keep on finding out the difference till you realize that it's common. Okay, by the way, I realize we're not done with this question. Okay. Why can't we do the same method for quadratics? It doesn't work with quadratic because cubic के जो questions आते हैं ना वो relatively आसान. I think the examiners kind of feel sorry for students, so they relatively give easier questions for cubic where it's just a certain term that you have to add to n cube or subtract to n cube in order to find the general term, or perhaps the difference is a multiple of a certain number. That's why it works with cubic sequence. Okay, it doesn't work with quadratic sequence. Quadratic questions are kind of tricky, so this won't work in quadratic sequence. Okay? So, anyway, now see if you guys can do part B without my help. See if you guys can do part B. Sir, O levels में है cubic sequence? Yep, O levels में है cubic sequence, but इसीलिए पढ़ा रहा हूँ. First time I joined the stream? Well, would like to welcome you. N plus 1 upon n square. That's correct. N plus 1 upon n square. That's correct. So the numerator is always 1 greater than the term number, therefore n plus 1. The denominator is n square, so therefore it's n square. Okay, good job. There are altogether 5 different sequences that you have to learn. Okay, so I'll upload these notes. You guys can download the notes. वैसे तो you can download my notes from the website as well, but there are 5 different sequences that you have to learn. Okay, now let's do an O-level question. Okay, let's do an O-level math question. Let's see what this says. So it says some numbers are arranged in rows. So here we are. Here's row 1, here's row 2, here's row 3, here's row 4. Now who can tell me what will row 5 be? Yes, in fractions you deal with numerator separately and denominator separately. And sir, one more thing, is there any tip you could give me to stay productive since I have 5 subjects this year and I'm struggling to focus even? How is, okay, Lisa, I think you need to turn off your caps locks. It seems as if you're literally shouting. How is it n square? Well, 1 square. Oh no, wait a minute, you're right, it's not n square. Who said n square? Who said n square? गलत बोला किसने बोला n square? That's completely wrong. So let me fix that. It's not n square. You're right. So multiplied by 4, multiplied by 4, multiplied by 4. I know why you guys said n square. You probably saw the first term, you probably saw the second term, and didn't bother to look at the remaining terms. Okay, so please don't do that in the exam. So multiply by 4 again. This means that this is an exponential sequence. Okay, if it's an exponential sequence, the general term would be a r raised to the power n minus 1, where a is 1, r is 4 raised to the power n minus 1. So that means it's simply 4 power n minus 1. Okay, so that's the correct answer. Thank you, Aliza, for pointing it out. We have someone who's paying attention. The rest of you are clearly not. अच्छा, अब हम आ जाते हैं वापस इस पे. So what is, this is a question from O-level, okay. What will be row 5? Yeah, so you guys have already given the answer. So row 5 will be 11. How many times? 6 times. No, 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times actually. Okay. Now, write down an expression in terms of n for each number in row n. Okay, write down an expression in terms of n for each number in row n. So that means we are finding the general term, but we are finding the general term vertically. Okay, so we're finding the general term vertically. 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. Okay, so the general term formula is a plus n minus 1 into d. So a is 3, 3 plus n minus 1 into the common difference, which is 2. So let's see what do we get. We get 3 plus 2n minus 2. That means this simplifies to 2n plus 1. Okay, so the answer is 2n plus 1. Why are the streams so late? Would prefer an early stream. Because of Tarawih, I think everyone gets off from Tarawih around 10, 10:30. So that's why. Okay. So in April, you will do only yearly past papers or topicals as well? On YouTube, I will be doing topical past papers. The yearly past paper session is a paid session if you guys want to join. In that, I will only be solving yearly past papers. Okay, there's no point in doing topical past papers literally 1 month before the exam unless you want to learn a certain topic. Do stream after Seri. I would love to do a stream after Seri. I don't know if you guys would be awake at that time. I think maybe I'll do a test run. Maybe I'll do a test run of doing a stream after Seri. Let's see how many of you show up. Anyway, find an expression in terms of n for the numbers in row n. So see if you guys can do part C. Write down an expression in terms of n for the number of numbers in row n. For the number of numbers in row n. ठीक है, देखो row 1 में कितने numbers हैं, देखो row 2 में कितने numbers हैं, देखो row 3 में कितने numbers हैं, देखो row 4 में कितने numbers हैं, देखो row 5 में कितने numbers हैं. Identify a pattern and then find out the number of numbers in row n. See if you can do that. Row 1 has 2, row 2 has 3, row 3 has 4, row 4 has 5, row 5 has 6. So, pretty straightforward. N plus 1. Aliza, आपने अभी भी अपना caps lock बंद नहीं किया? So it's n plus 1. That's correct. Okay, now, write down an expression in terms of n for the sum of the numbers in row n. अब ये question बड़ा अच्छा है, ठीक है? बहुत ही कोई नेक एग्जामिनर है जिसने ये क्वेश्चन बनाया, ठीक है? क्यों? क्योंकि उसने आपको literally baby steps, he has basically made you take baby steps. Okay, so he has basically made you find out the answer to part B and part C, and these are the two parts that you will need to find part D. Okay, so who can tell me what the answer is? I think I've already given away the answer, but see if you can put together the final answer. And that's correct. So we'll basically multiply. So notice that we have 2 3s. So that means the sum would be 3 times 2. Okay. Here notice that we have 3 5. So that means the sum would be 5 times 3. Here we have 4 7. So that means the sum would be 7 times 4. Here we have 5 9. So that means the sum would be 9 times 5. Here we have 6 11. So that means the sum would be 11 times 6. So the term and the number of terms. The term number, the term value multiplied by the number of terms. So that means the answer would simply be 2n plus 1, which will give you the expression in terms of n for each number into n plus 1, which is equal to the number of terms. If you want, you can leave it as like this, or if you want, you can expand it. That's perfectly all right. The question doesn't have a specific preference, so you can write down the expanded version, which is going to be 2n squared plus 2n plus n, so that's going to be 3n plus 1. Okay, both are acceptable because the question has no specific restriction. You don't get it? Okay, I'll explain it again. देखो, अगर मैं आपसे कहूँ कि इस रो में मुझे सम बताओ, जो सारी terms हैं उनका sum क्या होगा? So you're going to do 3 times 2. For the following row, you're going to do 5 times 3 because you have 5, which is being repeated 3 times. And then for the following row, you're going to do 7 times 4. And then for the following row, you're going to do 9 times 5. And then for the following row, you're going to do 11 times 6. So technically what you're doing is you're multiplying the term by the number of times it occurs. Okay, you're multiplying the term by the number of times it occurs. Now, what's the term? We know that the general term is 2n plus 1. And what are the number of times that it occurs? It occurs n plus 1 times. Okay, so that's what we're doing. So how do we know? Do we need to know vertical pattern method for number sequence? No, you don't. There's no such thing as vertical pattern method. Okay, आपने बस देखना है whether you're supposed to identify a pattern horizontally or whether you're supposed to do it vertically. That's what you're supposed to do. Okay, so let's do a question from IGCSE, then one more from O-levels, and I think that would be it. Okay, so you have questions like these in IGCSE as well, okay? Not just in O-level math, you have questions like these in IGCSE math as well. So let's solve this question, and after this, we'll do one more O-level question. How does it occur n plus 1 times? Beta thoda sa zara common sense use kar lo. If you look at the row 1, the number occurs twice, okay? Row 2, the number occurs 3 times. In row 3, the number occurs 4 times. In row 4, the number occurs 5 times. In row 5, the number occurs 6 times. Okay, so that's why every row, if it's row 5, you will have the term repeating 6 times. If it's row n, that means you will have the term coming how many times? n plus 1 times. ठीक है, जो row number है, term हमेशा उससे एक से ज़्यादा दफ़ा आएगी. That's the explanation. Sir Zain ने vertical का नाम दिया था उस table वाले को. ठीक है, देखो, जैसे मैं उसको hence find बोलता हूँ, Sir Zain उसको vertical बोल रहे हैं, that's perfectly all right. ठीक है, हर teacher कोई अपना, उस पे every teacher gives it his or her own personalized touch, so that's perfectly all right. ठीक है, लेकिन officially कोई ऐसी vertical चीज़ नहीं है. देखो वो vertical को किसको कह रहे हैं, ठीक है, and then see if it's something you need to sit down and study for it separately. Okay, so here's another question. Let's solve this, and after this we'll solve one more O-level question, and that would be it. And then I think towards the end, close to the exams, I'll do a stream on number sequences. For now, I think it's enough. I would encourage you guys to download these past papers from the link in description and practice them on your own. White dots, 5 squares are 25, and next 6 squares are 36. That's correct. 25 and 36. Good job. Number of black dots. Number of black dots. So differences of 1, differences of 2, differences of 3. There will be a difference of 4, and then the difference of 5. Okay. Total number of dots. Total number of dots. For total number of dots, simply add them up. 35, 36 plus 15, that's 41 plus 1, so that's 51. Okay. Write down an expression in terms of n for the number of white dots in diagram n. Very simple, n squared. The expression for the total number of dots in diagram n is this. What are we supposed to do? We're supposed to find out the total number of dots in diagram 8. That means n is equals to 8. Okay. So 1 upon 2 into 3 times 8 squared minus 8. So let's see if this is paper 2 or paper... This is paper 4, so we can use a calculator. So 3 times 8 squared minus 8 divided by 2, so that's 92. Okay. Find an expression in terms of black dots in diagram n. Give your answer in its simplest form. Once again, once again, this examiner has my respect because he has made it very easy for you. Okay, he has made your life very easy by basically making you take baby steps. Okay, so why is that? Who's going to tell me? Are we supposed to use the general term formula? Well, you can use the general term formula, but you can be a bit smart about it. Okay, you can be a bit smart about it. We know that total is equals to what? Total is equals to white plus black. Okay, total is equals to white plus black. Sir, is the graph in CI exam? Of course it's clear, beta. ये आपके स्कूल की photocopy machine नहीं है, ठीक है? So it's going to be clear. Now we're given the total. Okay, so the total is half into 3n square minus n, which is equal to white. We know the number of white dots in diagram n, that's n square plus black. ठीक है, और हमें black की general term चाहिए. Okay, so let's expand this. This will become 3 upon 2 n square minus 1 upon 2 n minus n square. And let's further simplify this. So 3 upon 2 n square minus n squared, that means that's 1.5 minus 1, so that's 1 upon 2 n square minus 1 upon 2n. Okay, so काफ़ी अच्छा एग्जामिनर है, उसको आपके हाल पे शायद रहम आ गया, तरस आ गया, इसलिए उसने आपकी ज़िंदगी आसान कर दी. Okay, let's see if there is more. There is another part to it. Yes. T is the total number of dots used to make all of the first n diagrams. Interesting. Okay, I take my words back. उसने आपको यहाँ पे सही टेस्ट कर लिया उसने आपको. So, T is the total number of dots used to make all of the first n diagrams. Okay, all of the first n diagrams का मतलब क्या है? Let's see. That means to make diagram 1, okay, I'm going to call it D1. How many dots do we need? We need 1 dot. Okay, to make diagram 1 and diagram 2, what are the total number of dots that we need? We need 6 dots. Okay, to make diagram 1, diagram 2 and diagram 3, how many number of dots do we need? We need 1 plus 5, which is 6, 6 plus 2, which is equal to 18. Okay, so that's what the question is saying. The question is saying, okay, T is the total number of dots used to make all of the first n diagrams. To make the first 1 diagram, we need 1 dot. To make the first 2 diagrams, we need 6 dots. To make the first 3 diagrams, we need 18 dots. Okay? The good thing that the question has done is, it has given you this. It has given you what the general term looks like. Okay, so the general term looks like Tn is equals to an cube plus bn square. So that means when n is equals to 1, t is equal to 1. Okay, so we're going to find one equation. So अगर मैं 1 plug in करता हूँ, so a plus b is equals to 1, that's one equation, which is clearly insufficient. Okay, so this equation is clearly insufficient. Now I know that if I plug in 2, okay, plug in 2 का मतलब, we're talking about total number of dots needed to make the first 2 diagrams. So that would give me the value of t, which is the total, and what's that equal to? That's equal to 6. Okay. So if I plug in 2, that means a times 2 cubed plus b times 2 squared. What's that equal to? That's equal to 6. That means 8a plus 4b equals to 6. Let's divide this by 2. So that's going to be 4a plus 2b is equals to 3. Okay, so that's the second term. Now let's solve these two simultaneously. Okay, let's solve simultaneously. So for a, I'm going to use elimination. 4a plus 2b is equals to 3. a plus b is equals to 1. ठीक है, इस equation को 2 से multiply करते हैं. Let's see what happens. So the first equation remains as is. The first equation remains 4a plus 2b equals to 3. The equation below becomes 2a plus 2b, which is equal to 2. b हो गया हमारा eliminate. 3 minus 2 is 1. 4a minus 2a is 2a. So 2a is equals to 1. That means a is equals to half. अब let's go back to the first equation, which was a plus b is equals to 1. Plug in the value of a and find out the value of b. So b किसके बराबर आ गया? b भी half के बराबर आ गया. Okay? So I hope it's clear. Acha, I think let's keep it till here only. I will encourage you guys to solve this worksheet and solve the other worksheet. Okay, so O-level students should practice for IGCSE from IGCSE worksheet, and IGCSE students should practice from O-level worksheet as well. Okay, that is if you run out of practice material. Okay, and throughout I would strongly recommend that you avoid the use of calculator. Even if it's a paper 4 question, try and minimize the use of calculator till you reach a point where you think that you absolutely have to. Okay, so I hope this concept is clear. If you want to do the basics, you can watch the first stream, and towards the end, close to exams, inshallah, I'll do another stream of number sequences. Okay, so jate I would appreciate if you guys like the stream if you haven't done that, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that. And I would also appreciate if you share this with your friends, classmates, and whoever you think can possibly benefit from it. Should IGCSE kids practice O-level math P1? Definitely. Okay, that's your best source of questions, of non-calculator questions. Okay, you should definitely practice O-level math P1 to practice for paper 2. सहरी के बाद वाली स्ट्रीम एक कमिंग वीक में एक टेस्ट रन करके देखते हैं इंशाल्लाह. कमिंग वीक में एक टेस्ट रन करके देखते हैं. Let's see if it goes well. Okay, so once again fellas, take care. See you guys inshallah in the next stream. Take care. Allah Hafiz.